And welcome back. The topic for today is women are destined to excel. And I know I said in the last video that it's a fact, and I know I can't say that yet, but I really believe we're at a tipping point, and I cannot help but see any way that women won't be successful. It's just perfect timing right now for women to take over leadership roles. Now, in my book, I quote several studies that talk about how women are really becoming successful. And I don't want to bore you with a lot of numbers and facts and things, but I want to quickly go through four studies and just give you some of the results. Three of these studies were reported in the Wall Street Journal, and then one of them was online, NBC. Okay, so study one. This study was from 9 countries and 22,980 firms. They found a 15% increase in one measure of gross profit where women represent 30% of leaders. Second study, um, companies that had at least 1/5 of their workforce as women increased sales per employee about 14%. Another large study of 820 companies found that lower performing companies had fewer female executives, and companies that scored in the highest quartile for total effectiveness had 20.2% of women as top executives. And then finally, a study from S&P Global Market Intelligence found that public companies with women as CEO or CIO, Chief Information Officer, were more profitable and had stronger stock performance compared to when there were men at the top. And I could go on, but that gives you a feeling of what's happening and what these studies are saying. And I know I always say there's only 10% of female CEOs leading Fortune 500 companies. But another way to look at that is I say only 10%. But when you think about that, 10% is 50 women leading top companies. And many are leading companies in industries that traditionally women were ignored in or barred from. I always talk about Mary Barra leading a major automotive company. Another thing I want to cite is in February 2021, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce named Suzanne Clark as its new chief executive. And this is significant for many reasons, but she's the first woman to lead the 100-year-old organization that has been regarded as corporate America's principal voice in Washington. And she has a reputation for building bridges. Again, that's those right brain collaborative skills that I keep talking about. And another fact, I just want to mention what AI, artificial intelligence, particularly all these GPT softwares, which I know you've heard of, what they are doing and changing many, many industries. It's amazing. In essence, these GPTs, okay, are changing the left brain logical thinking skills. That's what artificial intelligence is starting to do, which means even more than ever, it's the emotional, right brain, feminine skills that are needed. It's just, I feel like everything is coming together perfectly to support women. And my belief is if there is a benevolent universe out there, it's doing it so that we can change the world. Now, I also want to mention that it's important that women don't lead like many men in the past, that old, good old boys club. And I've seen many women try leading in that way because they probably thought this is the way to get ahead. But that is not going to work in the long term. I also want to talk a little bit about men and how they might be feeling. I know a lot of men probably don't know about these studies and the number of women that are leading big companies, but at some point it's got to come into their awareness of what's happening. Certainly when men are in college, and there's only 40% of men that are in college, and they see this high 60% of women in college. That's got to make them stop and think. And even though probably many men don't know about all, 10%, 50 women leading these major companies, at some point they're going to hear about things like uh, a female CEO leading a major automotive company. So I think it is imperative for women to have empathy for men, and that this is already happening, and the number of suicides by young men has really been on the rise, and I just think it's a very difficult environment for men, and many of them, they just don't know how to act, and it's not their fault. They grew up in the same kind of culture that women did, but they were told they could not be emotional, that being collaborative wasn't the way to success. You dictate, you tell people what they should do. That's the old model that they grew up with. So it's really going to be difficult now for men to do this 180-degree shift where they need to rely on their emotions and their creativity and helping and supporting people. So women really need to help men. We need everybody, men and women, to be fully productive in the workplace. So women have another job to do, not only the job of leading companies and being sure that the company is productive and effective, but that men have an important role as well. Now, I began this book because I wanted to help women face some of the situations, some of the discrimination that I faced during my career. And I didn't want anybody to have to go through some of the things that I went through. And that still was the primary reason for me writing my book, and also for doing these 21 videos. But at the same time, I also wrote another book called Women Must Save the World, a call to action. This is a very small, short book, only 7 chapters, and it's not focusing on discrimination at all. It's focusing on the situation that we all face in the world and that businesses face every day, and what needs to change. What needs to change to make a better world? So I've decided, after this is the last video of this series, I'm going to make 7 short videos talking about my other book, Women Must Save the World, A Call to Action. And again, not necessary to go out and buy any book. That's not why I'm mentioning this. But if you're interested, please start watching the next videos that will begin in 2 weeks. Now, before we end, I do want to give you 3 questions for today. Question 1. Do you believe the time has come for women to be the predominant leaders in business? And if so, why do you think that? Question 2. What can companies do to help women in the workforce become successful, especially after the toll that COVID-19, the pandemic, has taken on women? And question 3, do you think equality for women and minorities will be reached in your lifetime? So with that, I'm going to sign off, this being the last video for this book. And I do want you to remember that the sky is the limit, that right now it's a perfect time for women, and all women have a choice. You can step up and join the game and play the game, or you can sit on the sidelines. But it really is the time for women to succeed, to be happy, and to have a good life. So I hope to see you again, and thank you so much for listening to all these videos.